Hello and welcome to Homer for Thursday, September 18th, 2025. Today we'll be reading from lines 88 to 105 in Book 12 of the Iliad as we learn about the 5 rows of men that were mentioned at the end of yesterday's reading. I hope you enjoy and thank you so much for being here with me today. Let's get started with the English. Some went with Hector and peerless Damas, even they that were most in number and bravest, and that were most fain to break through the wall and fight by the hollow ships. And with them followed Cabriones as the third, for by his chariot and Hector left another man, weaker than Cabriones, had Hector. The second company was led by Paris and Alcathaos and Agenor, and the third by Helenus and godlike Deiphobos, sons twain of Priam. And a third was with them, the warrior Asios, son of Hortius, whom his horses tawny and great had borne from Rispe, from the river Selleis. And of the fourth company, the valiant son of Anchises was leader, this Aeneas. And with him were Antenor's 2 sons, Archelochus and Acamas, well skilled in all manner of fighting. And Sarpedon led the glorious allies, and he chose as his comrades Glaucus and warlike Asteropaeus, for these seemed to him to be the bravest beyond all others after his own self. But he was preeminent even amid all. These then, when they had fenced one another with their well-wrought shields of bull's hide. We'll stop there just for the page break, although I guess it's only 3 more lines. Made straight for the Danaans full eagerly, nor deemed that they would any more be stayed, but would fall upon the black ships. Great, finishes our catalog passage. Let's do it in the Greek. Hoi men Hectorisan kaya muamoni pulo ramanti. Hoi plestoi cararista esan memasan de malista. Theos rexamenoi coeles epinausi macestai, caesvin cebriones titose petapardarocesvin, alon cebrionao coreion calipin Hector, ton veteron pariserce cae alcathos cae agenor, ton de triton Helenos cae Deiphobos theoedes, hui duo priamoi otitos de nasios heros, Asios urcatides honaris bethen peron hippoi, aethones megaloi potamuo aposelentos, ton detator ton ercneus paisan ciasau, aeneas amatoi geduo antenoros huie, arcelocos tacamaste maces eoedote passes, sorpedon heges atacancle ton epicuron, Postelato glaucon caraleion asteropaion, oegaroe santo diacridon nararistoi, ton allon metagauton hodeprepe cae diapanton, oedepe allelus araron tuctesi boesi, banritus tanoon lelie menoiure tefanto, scethesta lenausimalaines sin pesestai. Wonderful, pardon the melisma there at the end. Now, si malinasi pesesestai. What a great last line. We were talking about sort of rhymes of epsilon in yesterday's readings, but I really like this one. Skesesta lenausi malinesin pesestai. Right. So you once again have this actually very similar thing. You have these like epsilons with different accentuation patterns. Skesesta lenausi malinesin pesestai. So you have skes says downbeat there, and then in the last line it's on the upbeat of the 5th foot. So pesestai, or I guess like the 4th quadrant of it, quarter of the beat. And then you have these like eosines there, eosi, skestesta, and naosi, and esine, naosi, pesestai, skestest, right? So it's also very, very parallel. In fact, I think it's actually very close to exactly parallel. We have skestest and pesestai on the end of the lines, right? And then the 4 words in the middle are also parallel to each other. Alen, right? So you have the open syllable, and then neosi, malainesi. So it's just very, very similar to the line we had yesterday, which was the one that I liked anyway, in this sort of 4-bit pattern, right? I guess where was it? I can't find it. I don't think so. Or maybe I'm looking at I could just be looking at the wrong page. Oh geez, I remember it being pretty good though. Anyway, that's fine. Maybe it's even like one page further back. Sorry to keep you waiting there. But basically, there's great form here. And why is the form so interesting? I think one should care more about the form here than the actual narrative, although we do have such great characters that are named. And I encourage you to go through a commentary and read the backstories of each of these characters, because the prevalence of a character in a catalog like this is not actually reflective of their importance in the poetry. So oftentimes this is simply illustrative, right? So some scholia, some other sources argue, oh, there's 5 groups of people, each with 1 leader and 2 pals, right? So there's 5 gates that they storm through, much like the 7 Against Thebes, right? The Aeschylean play, right? But actually, like, that's not really the case. There's no really evidence for that. There's also no real evidence for like these being like good fighters too. Helenos, for example, is supposedly in some traditions marries Helen like after the war, right? Which is obviously not really determinative, because his name's Helenos and her name is Helen, right? After Paris is dead, he takes her, right? And then in another tradition, he warns, Paris in the first place of, or Alexander, of like the problems of like going to steal the girl. And then there's like this other weird sentence here, which is, literally just like alon, right? So, oh, he has another person, like Hector gives him another person, right? Like, what is that? Another person, and not just another person, but like another far less good person. It's like alon, right? It's like, alon cabriona o carei onacali ben Hector, right? So, he gives someone who's much weaker than him to be like his buddy, right? And it's like, well, does that mean that every other third person in this like list is also like far weaker than the second person? It's just like a little like, what's going on here? And also because some of these figures, for instance, Aeneas, right, of Aeneid fame, right, is only ever mentioned like back in like book 5, and he doesn't really get another shot, right? Sarpedon is one of the important ones, as well as Glaucus. These two are very, very important, and they do have a lot of fighting in the Iliad. But the reason why this is mentioned is that there are groups of 5, right, that happen like in other parts of the Iliad, even on the Achaean side, which makes it also, I think, more clear that it's a poetic invention. And then the final thing that I think is worth mentioning is that the 5-ness comes with 2 friends each, right? So we have 5, 10, 15, 1, 2, and 3 as important numbers. I think that's just absolutely splendid. And yeah, I think that's really cool. And then the last thing that I want to mention is the prevalence of alpha in these names. I think it's also interesting, and I think it is artful, which it's a little artificial. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. I think this one's gone long enough. I look forward to sharing more Homer with you tomorrow, and I hope you enjoyed. Have a great day. Bye.